Hello, everyone. This is Frederic Godart speaking live from Fontainebleau. And it's my pleasure tonight to, we're going to talk about a case, Woleet and Ulysse Nardin in the case series organized by Digital at INSAD, where we focus on topics of interest to us around technology. And today you will see we're going to talk about two exciting things: watchmaking, luxury watchmaking, and blockchain. And we have three guest speakers with us. We have Isabelle Bonnet, who is partner at Blockchain Solutions. And then we have Gilles Cardignan, who is the CEO of Woleet. And we have Kim, who is assistant professor of management in Seoul, and also happens to be a alumnus of INSAD from the PhD program. So who am I? So I've worked for a while at INSAD for a bunch of years, like more than 10 years. And I like writing cases on luxury. I like writing cases on topics related to digital and technology. And today is going to be blockchain, but I also work on AI and so on and so forth. I'm going to share some slides with you, which is going to be a quick keynote on the topic of the day. Okay, so we have written this case, so with two co-authors, and you can see here Kim and Brian. So Brian is the case writer at INSAD, and Kim is going to be with us tonight. He's also, as I said, a former PhD student of INSAD. And he also helped me prepare the slides. So I would like to thank him. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to start with a quick question. As I said, the topic of tonight is watchmaking and blockchain, luxury watchmaking, exquisite Swiss watches. And I'm going to ask you a first question in the poll, and I would like to hear from you. And then I'm going to draw some conclusions from this. Would you rather buy an expensive Swiss-made luxury watch? And where would you buy it? I mean, in an official retailer store, brick and mortar, online from an official retailer, or online from a third-party retailer, right? So I'm not giving you other options. Perhaps you want to wait for someone to give it to you, or make your own. I mean, there are very good classes of how to make watches in Switzerland. But where would you rather buy an expensive Swiss-made luxury watch? Official retailer store, brick and mortar, online from an official retailer, or online from a third-party retailer. So now we're waiting for the answers. So the results are quite telling. 91% are telling us in an official retailer store, brick and mortar. 6% only online from an official retailer, and like 3% would go for third-party. I'm not going to give you names from websites, but okay. So what we have here is very interesting. Is that even if it's official, most of us, in fact, would rather go to the brick and mortar place. And the question is why? And obviously, one of the answers is that there is a big risk of counterfeiting. And also, we like the connections. We like seeing these products. Why is it difficult to buy online? I mean, counterfeiting, very, very big in luxury industries. I'm going to give you more data about this. Would you really click on the add to cart button, for this 10,000 euro Rolex watch? Probably not. There's issues of trust and authenticities where it's very stressful. We never know what we're going to receive. And perhaps the brand and factory certificate is not satisfactory. So, okay, how do we deal with that? Now, counterfeiting, also a very big issue for luxury brands. Here you have very interesting pictures of fake products. In a way, it's hilarious what counterfeiters are doing. Sometimes very ridiculous, but also very bad for everyone. Huge economic losses for brands, huge reputational risk for them. And clients are very demanding, right? We want to know where the watch comes from, and for sustainability, ethical reasons. There are a bunch of reasons for this, right? And I would like to add also that counterfeited products first are obviously illegal and also very dangerous sometimes. So we need to be careful. Okay, so here we have this big challenge. issues for us, there is a risk when we buy luxury products, and many issues for brands. And the question is how we deal with those two issues. And we see that blockchain perhaps is a very interesting solution. Now, about 3.3% of global trade is counterfeited products. It's huge. These are like pre-pandemic numbers, and it's likely to increase. Globally, it represents almost $2 trillion. Imagine, it's huge. It's like the size of the economy of a country like Italy, France, the UK. And if we double click more specifically on Swiss luxury watchmaking, it's about 20, which is about 20 billion in size. The fakes represent 7 to 10%, so it's about 1.5 to 2 billion USD loss. A staggering number. Every year, 30 million real Swiss watches are produced, and we're talking about 40 million fakes, right? So this is the size. This is the size of the problem in luxury, and more specifically in luxury watchmaking. When we look at the part of the industry where basically counterfeiting is the most important, is footwear, clothing, leather goods, electrical equipment, which honestly is quite worrying. Because if something should not be counterfeited, is that, because this is very dangerous. But watches are very important, like about 7%. Something very interesting. So we could think that counterfeiting is a thing from the past, but the thing is that when you ask Gen Zs, like younger generation, basically, about 74% of American and 84% of Chinese tell us that they don't really mind buying fake stuff, and they bought at least one fake product in last year. So that is interesting to see how prevalent this is. Now, there are a lot of solutions to fight counterfeiting, and again, I go back to blockchain. The LV monogram, for example, was created to make counterfeiting difficult, and that's why it was created. Very hard to make, but like counterfeiters now, they actually do it, they make it. The lawyers, it's a big risk for counterfeiters. LVMH alone employs at least 60 lawyers. They spend about 17 million, to fight counterfeiting. And there are new technological solutions, not blockchain specifically, but AI-based approaches to identifying fake products. So they would take like entropy, for example, like very precise pictures of products, and then they would compare to their databases. Okay. Second question for you: are these traditional solutions satisfactory? When we talk about fighting counterfeiting, is it satisfactory? Here I just went yes, no. I went simple for the poll. It's like I expect a resounding answer for one of these two options. So let's see what that is. Yeah, 92%. No, well, I'm happy to see that you confirm what I thought. It's not satisfactory. We're spending a lot of money. There are a lot of risk. It destroys the value added of the brands, their creativity, and the solutions that exist are not satisfactory. Things are even worse these days because we have the rise of what we call super fakes. Perhaps some of you have heard this, which are like fake luxury products that are so well made that basically not impossible, but almost impossible for us to know, and even for experts to know which ones are fake or not. So this is one example, of a fake versus authentic Swiss watch, and you can see like the details, right? It's like it's crazy where you have to go to identify the fakes. So those super fakes, even AI systems and experts have a hard time knowing what they are. So basically, well, it seems that we're hitting a wall, except if we bring in blockchain. Now, let me tell you also why perhaps we need to find other solutions. It's also because of the rise of the second-hand market in luxury. There was an excellent study by BCG here, 21 billion euros, growing at 8% CAGR projected for the next few years. And now you see how watches are important. That's 75%. Most of them bought offline, so which corresponds and can be related to your answer to the first poll question, and mostly in Europe. So this is the profile of the second-hand watch making market. It's Europe offline, and it's a very big one. Solution perhaps is to be found in blockchain, and perhaps the collaboration between Woleet and Ulysse Nardin is the absolute solution. I don't know. So we'll see together. We'll discuss with our guests. There is a great video that I encourage you to watch on YouTube. We're going to send you the link later, but you know that's quite interesting. Quick words on the protagonist of the case. You know how we structure cases at business schools. We have the protagonists. Ulysse Nardin, fantastic watch brand. You know, created in 1846, very well known for the quality of their watches. They started in the navigation, and they survived the quartz revolution by going luxury. Right, so they had to reinvent themselves. They managed to mix technology and artisanal and craft. And you know, here you have one example of what they do with the X Factor, which is like a signature style that they have. Who owns Ulysse Nardin? Is the business conglomerate Kering, very big one, about 13 billion in revenue. They bought Ulysse Nardin in 2014 for 700 million euros. They own a bunch of brands from Balenciaga, Yves Saint Laurent, and so on and so forth. So a lot of focus on innovation, and today the focus will be on Woleet. Founded in 2016 by Gilles, who is here with us today in Brittany, France, which for the story is also where Kering, the owners of the Kering group come from. So there is perhaps a connection here. They offer like a middleware solution. So Gilles is going to tell us more about it. Proof of existence, proof of signature. So let's see a little bit how it works. Now, you know, it took me a lot of time to create these slides. So basically you go to Ulysse Nardin shop, you buy something, they register, a PDF is created, there is a hash which is put on Bitcoin, and there is a certificate by Woleet, and then that's the Woleet solution. But obviously Gilles is going to tell us more about it. Now I wanted to add a third part question is this, like, is it clear? But then I was, you know, I was afraid that the answer would be no, so I will not put that question. Okay, so that's already complicated, but wait, there is even more. Is something we're going to talk about. Is that we had this blockchain solution, you know, a couple of years ago. You know, how to like you know, create certificates for luxury products like watchmaking, in that case, Ulysse Nardin. But in the meantime, NFTs have emerged. But then, could NFTs also be a solution to solve this problem? Okay, that's it on my end for this short keynote. And now I would like to ask the speakers to join us and to reveal themselves. And I hope we are going to be okay with the videos. So Isabelle, Kim, and Gilles, if you can reveal yourselves. All right. Hello, everyone. Okay, the three of you are here. So Isabelle, partner and you know, at Blockchain Solutions, Gilles, founder of Woleet, and Kim, co-author of the case, professor at SKU in Seoul, and also expert on the watchmaking and luxury watchmaking. Okay, so we have about 30 minutes to discuss, and thank you again for joining us. And I would like to start by Gilles. So sorry if I was not clear when I explained how the Woleet process works. It took me a while to understand this, but I would like to start with a broad overview. So how does the Woleet solution create value for Ulysse Nardin, perhaps luxury watchmaking in general? And honestly, I had this question for myself, that's also from students, is why did you use Bitcoin rather than another solution? So what can you tell us about this?
Okay. So the solution put in place with Ulysse Nardin is about security, security of one document that's created when someone buys a watch in a shop. So concretely, for every purchase in every shop in the world, the shop is linked to a centralized CRM in the brand company, and the CRM creates a specific PDF containing all the relevant information like the name of the buyer, the serial number of the watch, the model of the watch, and so on. So you have to think about digitalization. Before Ulysse Nardin went full digitalized, they were emitting the exact same document, but in paper. And this paper is the certificate, the warranty certificate of the watch. And it was also protected with some technologies not to fake it, because it's easy to make a fake certificate with your fake watch and sell a counterfeited watch. So
just sorry to interrupt. So
exactly
that would be, for example, so that would be, for example, like a certain type of paper or something they would put in the document. So that was the old technology, correct? That's
yes. In the not digitalized world, the exact same document existed, but with paper, with some technology in the paper to make it hard to copy. But what we do here, it's exactly the same. We digitally sign the document and put a proof in the Bitcoin blockchain, but with our technology in a scalable way. So we can put a lot of proofs in the Bitcoin blockchain without a lot of transaction. And to answer the question why we choose the Bitcoin blockchain, because for us, the Bitcoin blockchain is clearly the most secure in the world, and the one we have the most guarantees for the future. We are actually very sure that in 10 years, the same proof we made like 3 years ago will still be verifiable the same way than today. So Bitcoin is global, is universal, is neutral, and durable. So that's why we chose this blockchain, because we think it's the most universal and durable and resilient blockchain. It's the perfect blockchain for digital proofs, actually. So what we do is just proving the digital documents created by Ulysse Nardin in the Bitcoin blockchain. That's it.
Thank you so much. So basically, if I summarize, you have a link between a certain watch with a serial number, a certain person, and a PDF. And all this we know is safe forever. Yeah. So what you're saying, almost, at least in actually, 10 years.
The link with the person and the serial number is just the information on the PDF, nothing more. But okay, the document created is unique, digitally unique, and this digitally unique document made for each purchase have a unique fingerprint, and we link with mathematics the fingerprint of this unique document with another unique Bitcoin transaction. So we have a proof of time, and the fingerprint is also signed with keys owned by the brand. So the brand certify each document they send to customers via email, actually.
All right, thank you very much. It was very clear. Thank you. Now I'm moving to you, Isabelle, since you also are an expert in the luxury industry. Honestly, what is the motivation of luxury watchmaking brands and perhaps luxury brands in general when using blockchain? What can you tell us here?
Sure. So actually for the brands I've been working with, and it was the case of Ulysse Nardin, of course, the main objective is to digitize the business, to go digital actually. And also, of course, to be innovative, which is in the DNA of the watchmaking brands, of course, which are extremely innovative. And so the reason also why blockchain can help when they want to go digital, especially in the luxury industry, is that you go digital, but not in a disposable way. You use immutability on internet, which is much more relevant with the product duration, for instance, of watches, for instance. And very concretely, there are some very powerful business where digitizing and using immutability is extremely powerful. So there is secondhand, of course, but there are also like different trends. We see consumer trends evolving a lot. So for instance, now customers, when they go to shops, basically they want to leave the shop with a watch on their wrist, and they don't even want a box. So it was very essential to have a digital document that was not a physical one, but that was at least as powerful or even more powerful. And we also see the customers that travel a lot and they want to have the possibility to activate their warranty wherever they are in the world and without having to hold their physical certificate with them. So that was a very basic issue we had. And we found the solution of Woleet extremely interesting because it was basically a no-code project. I think in your scheme, it can look.
What do you mean? What do you mean, Isabelle? Sorry to interrupt, perhaps for the audience that is not familiar.
So actually, when we see your scheme, it's very interesting, but you are already looking quite deep into the architecture. But from the brand perspective, using a solution like Woleet was very easy because basically we use a software. And so it's a way to use Bitcoin blockchain, which is basically the best blockchain in the world because it's the most decentralized, it's the most secure one, but without having to master the complexity of the technology and simply with the software. So the brand was simply creating the certificate like in the usual business, but we use the software to make the certificate extremely valuable because nobody could create a counterfeited certificate. I hope
Yeah, and also, as you mentioned, Isabelle, people lose their paper certificates all the time. And they don't have them with them. And also we're talking about a customer base, which is traveling a lot. Okay, very good. Isabelle, sorry, what about Ethereum and other solutions? I'm not, I want to enter into deep debates, but I'm sure the audience would be interested. Are they not safe either?
So Ethereum, the concept of this other blockchain was to create a platform to create other decentralized applications, we call it. So it means that you create a token. So some people are probably familiar with this in the audience that will represent something. And you can transfer this token from one person to another. So you could think at first that it could be a great technology to represent ownership of a physical object. You would have this digital token and transfer it. However, I believe, and I think some of the brands believe the same too, that it's also extremely dangerous because what exists in the digital world cannot be completely linked to the physical world. And you can only certify true some events that you can actually verify. So as a brand, what we decided was to only certify the moment that we can certify, which is the purchase. We know that the client purchased something. We have at this moment, we have the certitude that this person, because he declared himself, acquired this object, and therefore, yes, we can certify this moment. So we create a document and we certify this document with Bitcoin. But I think it's first of all, it's much lighter to do that rather than to create a token. So it's much more interesting also from an innovation point of view to use a very light solution because you can test it, verify if it has a good impact for the customer before putting it at scale. But also, it's also just certifying what you can actually certify because you have a certainty that it happens. And therefore, the information, when it becomes immutable, is true. And you don't want to have something that is immutable, like a token and decentralized. You lose control out of it without being able to verify that it tells something that is true.
Wow, thank you very much. It was very illuminating. Thank you very much, Isabelle. Kim, I'm moving to you now. I mean, in your view, so perhaps you also believe in Bitcoin over all the others. I think there's some kind of consensus here. It's very interesting. But if we had to comment on the value added of blockchain for luxury, and also I understand from Isabelle that it could be used beyond watchmaking for bags and all the luxury products, and also how is it different from NFTs? It's a buzzword I hear we hear about everywhere, and I think some of us are very confused about the difference. What can you tell us?
Okay, so first of all, thanks for having me here. The fact it's a long question, but if I were to kind of sum it up in a couple of points, well, first of all, Bitcoin, because it is the most decentralized. So indeed, as Gilles and Isabelle were pointing out, that's the one that's the most likely to be around still 10, 20 years from now. Then what's the difference with NFTs? Well, in fact, what Woleet is doing is they're proving that at some point in time, some entity signed something, right, that represents, in this case, a PDF, and the PDF represents basically your ownership of the watch. Well, with NFTs, what you can do is basically you can add some more functionality into that, I would say, digital piece of information. So in fact, for instance, I could imagine, so I'm taking a sort of speculative leap here. I'm not talking about reality as it is now in 2021, but we could imagine in the future, not so far away, that brands, for instance, instead of facing the uncertainty of production, so for instance, guessing ahead of time what are going to be the successful trends, etc., well, they would create an NFT for each of the objects that they might produce the following year, and then they would just put them in the market ahead of time, and they would see which ones get sold and bid upon, etc. And then given that you have the ownership of that NFT at a certain time when the production is basically finished, you would get the ownership of the object. It would be shipped at an address of your convenience, or you could even come to the store in exchange for some sort of additional services, and of course for the brands to sort of see who you are and put a name onto that crypto address. And so that would give, I guess, an incentive also for customers to actually pre-buy the collections, for instance, and because there's a speculative aspect. So savvy people would actually try to game the system and find out which would be the elements of the future collection that might suscitate more demand than the actual supply from the brand. And so in that sense, they could actually become sort of estimators of the willingness to pay in the market for the brands, right? And so the whole uncertainty of planifying production could be actually shifted downwards to the customer. Then I guess you wanted to add something?
Yes, I mean, so NFTs, non-fungible tokens, very big in the arts these days.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm actually checking the questions. In a couple of words, Kim, how would you define them, and how it's like it's certificate that you own something? What does that mean exactly?
So it's basically a token that you cannot swap for another equivalent token. So it's something unique, basically kind of a unique identity tag. And by the magic of cryptography, you can actually track for sure authenticity in the chain of ownership. And so providing that originally you could check that it's created by a legitimate entity. So for instance, Ulysse Nardin, and that it would be associated to a certain model of watch. Well, you could say that, okay, upon proving that you own it at a certain moment in time, we'll actually ship the thing to wherever you declare that you live, for instance. So,
all right, that's so and NFTs being used in the arts right now. I mean, and I'm going to ask Isabelle and Gilles whether they have comments at this stage. And we see this convergence, right? I mean, I'll show you one slide where Sotheby's, for example, is selling, not only luxury goods, but also art, physical art, and also NFTs at the auction. So like this convergence between the arts, luxury, fashion. Isabelle and Gilles, thank you, Kim, very much. You all agree that Bitcoin is so that's fine. We settled this among us, but would you like to comment on NFTs and this non-fungible token that are used for the arts mostly, and that we hear about in the news all the time?
Yeah, NFT today is really trending in the art sector, like you just specified. And the principle in this context is to link the token that Kim talked about before with some digital art. But it's important to understand that the token is not containing the art. You are not buying actually the art piece, you are buying a token linked to some digital art. So concretely, it's a proof of purchase of this link to a digital art, And but everybody can still access the digital art and right-click save the JPEG, like everybody want to joke about. But yet it's just a link with some digital art, and you can create another token linked to the same digital art. It's perfectly possible. So today NFTs are trending to my mind because it's just collectibles, and you have trending collectibles like you had Tamagotchi back in the days, like you had you know, baseball cards, and NFT is just a blockchain technology allowing to do collectibles in a new way. But when you use NFTs, people need to control the keys, and the market of NFT is completely free. You can exchange NFT with in a peer-to-peer. So for brands specifically, like Isabelle said before, I'm not sure it's a good tool, because they lose the control over the NFTs they produce, as everybody can exchange NFT in a decentralized way. So yeah, that's the NFT we are talking about right now, and especially the NFT link with digital art.
Thank you so much, Isabelle. Yeah. Thank you very much, Gilles. Isabelle, would you like to add something on this?
Yes, maybe. So yes, it's a topic that I've been talking to my clients since June 2020, actually, and I was already very excited in this topic from quite a long time, because I believe it's extremely powerful to create something that is unique and transferable. But and then the question that my clients ask me right now is, what makes the value of those NFT? Because what we see right now is clearly a bubble with crazy prices, with clearly $500,000 cost of NFTs from Snoop Dogg, for instance. And what makes the value? So there are several things for me that can be some reasons for this value. First of all, and something very important to understand, I believe NFTs are not suitable to represent something again in the physical world, because you will not be able to, in the end, be sure that the person physically transferred something. So it has to stay a proof of ownership of something purely digital. But what's beautiful about something that is purely digital is that it does not deteriorate. Therefore, what you see, and I've done some analysis about that, is that on NFT markets, the second-hand items are at higher prices than first-hand. That's also why you have this bubble effect, and that's also why it's also extremely interesting to have something that is transferable and unique in the digital world, is that as it does not deteriorate, it can gain in value. And right now it's been used widely for digital art, which is actually a beautiful thing, because digital art before NFT was very hard to sell and was very hard to have a value. And what you see now is that with the NFT, you have all the characteristics that you had in the traditional art markets, which is something that you can transfer internationally. It's something you can use for basically sometimes also collecting, showcasing also, in the same way that you want to showcase art in your living room, you can showcase NFTs on your Twitter account, like we do with CryptoPunks right now. So all the characteristics that you have in traditional arts were basically becoming available for digital world thanks to NFT. And I believe for luxury brands that are extremely interested in creativity and collaborating with a lot of artists, it was a must go to be into that field, and that's why there is so much interest right now.
Thank you very much, Isabelle. So basically, when brands like Balenciaga create, stuff in the metaverse, we can use NFTs to own them. but when we're talking about watches with serial numbers, that's where the Woleet solution would help.
Sometimes
okay.
also you can do things in the metaverse without NFT. And that's what
Ah.
Gucci did recently with Roblox. They sold a handbag that was basically sold at a higher price than a physical one. So NFT is not a must. When you have NFT in something that is digital, you accept that it will be fully decentralized and that there will be no third party controlling it. So you need to think about that in advance. And I think it's not also suitable for all use case. And I believe what we've done with Ulysse Nardin and Woleet is extremely powerful, much more simple. And we don't need an NFT for that again, because you can only certify one moment. And therefore, just having one anchor is much more efficient and right to the need, basically.
All right. Thank you very much. Thank you. There are a lot of questions about. Thank you, Isabelle. It was very clear. On Bitcoin. So I would say is the use of Bitcoin more specifically, and perhaps also the cryptos. Is it bad for the environment? Is it a risk, a reputational risk for brands? Because Bitcoin has bad press. I mean, I'm talking about the impact on the environment. So some of you commented on the escalating cost of blockchain. And then also the fact that it seems to be used a lot in illegal activities, where the irony is that we're using Bitcoin to like stop illegal counterfeiting, and then it's also used for other stuff. Kim, perhaps you can answer, and then Gilles and Isabelle. Kim.
Okay, so well, I wanted to react to a couple of points of Isabelle. I think it's a matter of a time horizon. So I agree that for now, for instance, you cannot ensure anything but the origination of the product with some digital certificates. But for instance, there is already like a startup in the Ukraine that is, of course, working in tandem with the authorities to basically put ownership of real estate in the blockchain, and they already carried out a couple of sales. And so indeed, by working, at least in the beginning, with some sort of authentication mechanism, you can actually ensure at least at some point some physical link between real assets and virtual assets. Then when you transfer it from one entity to another, there could be actually a sort of a step in between, which is going back to the brand, which would then ensure the authenticity of the products and would then justify maybe a sort of a brokerage fee, and which is how then the brands would take control of their secondary markets. And you see a push for that. Like, for instance, we've observed that recently Audemars Piguet has actually created a whole department to actually reincorporate all of their secondary markets.
Yes, but how? Thank you, Kim. But how? Yeah. What about the impact of Bitcoin on the environment? I mean, I have like Thibault, for example. How do you take into consideration the impact of the Bitcoin on CSR level? Derek, one of the challenges with blockchain adoption is escalating costs of blockchain. Gas fees have creepingly high transaction fees, yes. And so on and so forth. So because that's a big challenge, right? So perhaps we don't know.
So I avoided the question, but in fact, I think that the question is a bit philosophical. It depends on what you value. So in fact, if you look at the current usage of electricity of proof of work blockchains, and the main one being Bitcoin, the rest being kind of negligible because Ethereum is going to move to proof of stake next year. Well, it's roughly the same as all the laundry machines in the world. So in fact, should you stop using laundry machines because it's consuming electricity? Is then the value of a completely decentralized monetary system something that you value over laundry machines?
Interesting. It's about what we value. Okay.
Exactly. Another way to see it is that the internet, just like all the Google farms and whatnot, they use a bit north of 10% of the world electricity. So should we stop internet, for instance? So that's so it really depends on what you
perhaps
value.
We should actually. Perhaps we should. But okay, thank you, Gilles. What can you say in your defense? It's like about the CSR.
Yeah, so it's not like you said about you talk about bad press, and the key word is press, because like for money laundering or energy waste, the reality is really different. Actually, if you take the Bitcoin industry actually what matters for the planet, which is CO2 emissions, Bitcoin is a very green industry, in a sense, not that the miners or the people working in Bitcoin are, you know, in it for the planet, but because they are searching for cheap energy. And what is cheap energy? Is surplus energy, so energy that wouldn't be consumed anyway, or lost if not consumed, or green energy, renewables. So there are some studies showing that maybe more than half of the energy used in Bitcoin is made of renewables because it's cheap energy. And same for the money laundering. If you look at the real studies, the percentage of using Bitcoin for, you know, for illicit activity is like less than 2% from an Interpol study recently. If you compare that to US dollars or even euros, it's ridiculous. So to me, this bad press is looking like just like the beginning of the internet. In the beginning of the internet in the 90s, internet was for you know, pornographs, terrorists, and it was exactly the same. And I think the origin of this bad press is fear of change. And if you look at the specifics of what we do at Woleet, we can make millions of proofs. So imagine millions of PDF, potential PDF, with just 4 Bitcoin transactions, because we have a layer 2 technology on top of Bitcoin. We just use Bitcoin as a settlement layer. And actually, if you scale like this, you optimize the way you use the blockchain. And someone talked about the fees in the question. Today, the fees in Bitcoin are quite low, but even if they were very high, the fact that we use a very few number of transactions actually lowers the cost of each proof. The cost, even if you count the energy cost of one proof we've made with Woleet, is less than one email, for example.
Well, that's great, Gilles. Actually, I'm going to stay with you. Thank you for your answer. So we are basically right now we're at the beginning of something new that is similar to the internet in the 90s, and perhaps it's what do we value. Okay, that was a great answer. Let me ask you. I mean, some of the questions also were about you know, very technical questions also about your solution, Woleet, and perhaps Isabelle will jump in as well. But you know, going back to the value of what you do, what you offer, you know, how you create value for the brands. And also, you know, how does it help deal with some of the issues like on the second-hand market, for example? Like Roger had a great question. How is the ownership of on the blockchain transferred to a new owner if the first owner sells the watch? Yeah. What would you say?
That's a great question, because I think that the real end game of Ulysse Nardin when they're doing this, when you have an authentic certificate and you want to sell your watch to someone else, this someone else will want his own certificate. And to do this, the new buyer need to go back to the brand and ask for a new certificate. So the old owner of the brand have to signal it to the brand in order to the brand to create a new certificate with the new name and the same serial number and the same model of the watch. So by doing this, the brand can get a breeze on the second-hand market, because you have to make this new document to have the certificate with your name on it. So that's a very smart way to control actually the second-hand market for the brand.
Yeah, David is, thank you very much. David is asking a question that I remember asking you, and the MBA students always ask. It's like, first, what can I make a fake PDF for my fake watch and pay somebody to add it to the BTC chain? And also another question was, can we make a fake watch with the same serial number and link it to the PDF? And so Gilles and then Isabelle, perhaps on these questions.
Yeah, it's very simple to counter this because we use signature, and each PDF is signed with Ulysse Nardin key. So even if you make your fake PDF and you anchor it in the Bitcoin blockchain, you won't have the Ulysse Nardin signature. So too bad, you cannot you cannot counterfeit the certificate. Thanks to crypto.
Isabelle, please.
No, nothing to add on that point, but maybe on the ecology question. So
okay.
Something to add. So yes, it's a key concern of the brands, and especially, of course, the Kering group. You know, the commitment of François-Henri Pinault and all the group around sustainability. It's huge. That's why there is a lot of questions from the brands on that topic. So you are very right to ask this question. And actually, the answer is quite complex. And it would require a whole panel on the topic. And what I usually do when my clients ask me that, so I do complete studies where I give a lot of information, a lot of data, because as Gilles explained, there is the press version of the reality, which is a short one that tells something that is wrong. But if you want to understand the reality of it, it's much more complex. And then my vision, actually, I believe that Bitcoin contributes to the development of green energy. Actually, it's even the opposite, in my opinion. But to understand that, you need to have a full view of it, as Gilles started to explain. So, but it's a fascinating topic, extremely interesting, and yeah.
Thank you. We organize another panel around this, but I can see how everyone is pushing back on that notion that blockchain, and especially Bitcoin, actually has a bad impact on the environment. Isabelle, I'm staying with you. Since you've helped a lot of luxury brands develop their blockchain solutions, and perhaps there are people in the audience who would be interested in this. How can brands, and especially luxury brands, develop their use of blockchains? I mean, what would you recommend? I mean, because it's quite technical. I mean, I can see also in the questions, and a lot of people may be confused. I mean, how do we deal with this?
So the very first thing to do, of course, is to understand what it's about and what is the benefit of decentralization. It's a completely new paradigm compared to traditional way of doing business. So it's very important to understand what it is to decentralize and what benefit it can bring. And actually, the main benefit is to basically create more trust, because you take a commitment that will become immutable. You can't come back on your commitment. So that's the key, I think, value addition of blockchain technology used for a brand. And what we did, for instance, with Ulysse Nardin, so those certificates, the brand commits to provide a warranty to this person for this watch. And they will never be able to come back on that commitment, because the client has this proof on the Bitcoin blockchain, and they will be always able to give that to the brand, say, hey, you committed to that. And I believe in a world where we say that trust is becoming the currency of our century, because of the digital that is becoming a key channel, first for communication, but even for sales. I believe that being able to commit as a brand through a digital technology will be extremely powerful and create a lot of value for customer. So the first step is, of course, to understand, and then also I think it's important to understand, because it's also a very complex topic, very innovative, and also there is a lot of, to be honest, bullshit in that field. So it's very hard for brands to find their way, and they need to have, I believe, independent advisors that will not be that will not have something to sell, and that will be able to provide a genuine and independent point of view. And that's something very rare, I believe, in that field. And that would be my advice if you're looking to innovate and try this technology. Try to find some independent advisors.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Isabelle. There is a question by Maxime. Now, also bringing in like the questions from the Q&A. He has a very interesting question. What is a good approach to pitch the blockchain technology towards manufacturers, right? And he also mentioned it. And also I know from experience in the luxury industry, it's quite difficult. But how do you pitch this? I mean, you go and explain everything. I mean, how do you do that?
I have the 30-second version, the 5-minute one. So I don't know which one. I do the 30-second. I see the time. So the 30-second one is simple. So before you had, when internet came, it's the internet of information. Basically, we share information, but everything is duplicated from one computer to another. With blockchain technology, and especially with Bitcoin, we created the internet of value. And value means that I can transfer something from someone to another person, and I can create some data on internet that becomes much more valuable than simply something that can be replicated endlessly. So yeah, that's the 30-second one.
Thank you. Yes, and Maxime also, adding, to what extent is the second-hand market, because we talked about it, like one of the motivations, second-hand market, and to what extent, does it matter to brands? I mean, and perhaps Kim, you want to jump in here. I mean, why do they care about it? I mean,
Well, so we've seen in the beginning of your presentation today that counterfeiting is really like a problem for brands. It sort of involves like huge costs in terms of lawyers tracking down the counterfeits, reducing customer experience, maybe potential danger when it involves electric things. So I guess that's the importance for brands, right? So not diluting the brand equity at first, and then at the second time, they could actually be more proactive in actually integrating their secondary markets too. So I think that is kind of a future play. And in fact, I don't think it was necessarily one of their top priorities originally. I think because of technology and other strategic priorities, but we could definitely see how technology could actually help them integrate much more of their secondary markets and then retake brokerage fees upon each transaction afterwards.
Super interesting. Thank you. Thibaut is very active tonight and has another question, and I think that's for Gilles, because I wanted to ask you this question about the next steps for Woleet. How are you going to react to, and again, I mean, Thibaut is asking, right? So we know that there are other players entering, like Aura, for example, with LVMH, Prada, so what do they propose? How is it different from what you propose? Where can you expand Woleet? What are you going to do as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, okay, so all those projects are betting on creating a specific infrastructure, that is to say a specific blockchain. So it's a private blockchain or consortium blockchain, and to get members of the industry all together. I think this bet is a bit ambitious when you know that it's complicated to make one project inside one company. So deploying a project among competitors, it can be challenging. So our bet is completely different, as we see Bitcoin as a global source of truth. And we try to plug companies one by one, system by system, to this neutral, universal, resilient source of truth. So I think it's a best way to get something useful in the end for companies, because that it just works, and it work in the long term. So our vision as a company, we are not specific in the luxury sector. Our ambition is to make Bitcoin this global source of truth, and it could be used for any company as long as they need proofs. So you need proof a lot in compliance, every type of compliance, when you have to prove that you made something at the right time. You can anything also legal, when you have to sign contracts and want to protect yourself for future litigation. So our role is really to facilitate the creation of digital proofs for the digital world, for already digitalized company, the link between their data and the Bitcoin blockchain in order to provide trust for their customers, their partners, auditors, government, regulators, etc.
Yeah, thank you, Gilles. I mean, and perhaps Isabelle and Kim can jump in. I mean, there is a great question by Khalil on that there is a lack of laws governing blockchain by definition because it's centralized. I mean, or perhaps there would be someday, we don't know. But how can we? I mean, what would be the reaction of regular judges and government bodies in various countries to do they even understand how hard it is to explain what blockchain is and how what is Bitcoin and how does it. So how, perhaps Isabelle can start, and then Gilles. I mean, the legal aspect of things. I mean, the question of Khalil is a very interesting question.
Sure. So actually, right now, the proof that Woleet creates on Bitcoin blockchain are recognized legally in a lot of countries. In Italy, for instance, in Germany, in China, in a lot of states in the United States. And there are also bailiffs in France that use this technology, and one day it's going to be recognized when there will be a jurisprudence in France also, because it's these proofs are so obvious that they are impossible to hack, that it's quite easy actually for a judge to recognize it. So it's already there. People don't know it, but yeah, Bitcoin is already recognized as having legal value.
So it's embedded in the legal system already, that it's actually something
and
that
actually,
we can.
A lot of luxury brands, they don't say it, but a lot of luxury brands use Bitcoin to protect their IP. And thanks to Bitcoin, they protected a lot more of their creations, because before they needed to print and go to notaries and physically go to notaries, and like right before the collection, it's just a nightmare to do this process. But by digitizing the process and protecting thanks to Bitcoin, they could protect much more. And right now, even though they don't talk about it for confidentiality reasons, a lot of brands are already using Bitcoin for protection of IP.
Thank you very much. Okay, I see that the time, this discussion is fascinating, and I can see a lot of questions. Unfortunately, we won't be able to talk about them all. We're going to conclude, perhaps very quickly, the three of you. Anything super exciting that you foresee in the near future regarding the intersection of luxury and blockchain? And I would like to start one thing very quickly. Isabelle, what is the one thing that excites you these days?
I think well, we are using a technology that is open source, that we can create very easily a standard. And I believe the solution that we deployed there, because it's the most efficient from a cost perspective, it's super easy to implement, it's using a lot of open source technology, it will develop. So I'm very excited about that. And then I think another very exciting field is, of course, crypto payments. There is already nobody talks about that, but it's the first use case of blockchain is crypto.
Our next case is about that, Isabelle.
Okay, well, so yeah,
Gilles.
They used it already. So yeah, I think it's
Kim, Kim, sorry, and then Gilles, very quickly. One thing, very quickly, please. What is exciting?
So exactly like Isabelle, I'm really excited about the technological aspects and all the things that it can sort of unlock in the future. And I would say that one thing that I'm particularly kind of looking forward to is basically the presence and the development of brands in the metaverse. And I think that is something that will happen relatively fast, in fact, faster than we imagine.
Thank you. Gilles, very quickly. And we conclude on this word by Gilles.
Very quickly, also like Isabelle, a lot of excitement about payments and the Lightning Network, and something very technical, maybe nobody will understand, but which are discrete log contracts. Sorry, but that's the thing I'm excited about.
Thank you very much, everyone. It was super exciting. Thank you again to Brian Henry, who was a case writer who did a fantastic job. I hope we managed to be clear. I was Frederic Godart live from Fontainebleau talking about a cutting edge topic. And I hope to be back soon. And I thank Isabelle, Gilles, and Kim. Thank you very much, and see you soon.